I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Councilman Lewis will lead us in the pledge. Councilman Conk will lead us in a prayer.
Lord, you have trusted us as stewards of this city and the parish. Please guide our hearts as we make decisions. May we always be mindful of our service and seek you first in all that we do. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We welcome you to the City Parish Council meeting. As presiding officer and chair, I'd like to announce the following. To address the council on any item on this agenda, please fill out the request form in the foyer. The request address in the council form must be filled out prior to the call of the agenda item, or you will not be given the opportunity to speak. If assistance is needed with submitting the request, staff is available. The 5-minute rule will be in effect. There will be no debating or confrontational statements. The front row to my left is for media only. Food and drinks are not allowed in the auditorium. Please silence all phones and electronic devices. Meeting procedures are by resolution, not by Robert's Rules of Order. Finally, the council encourages your involvement in boards and commissions. If you're interested, please call 291-8800. Chair announcements. Item number 12, appeal of Planning Commission action, has been deferred until February 19th. Additional time is needed for legal to finalize a dedication. From Global, items number 35, 36, and 30 have been pulled. I'd like to wish a happy birthday to Mr. Pat Lewis, District 3 Council Member. He's February 6th. Happy birthday, sir. I would also like to wish a happy birthday to Cindy Hebert, the Council Administrative Assistant, which will also be on February 6th. Finally, a happy birthday to Ms. Liz Hebert, District 8 Council Member, February 9th. I have one announcement, chair announcement. It's about the library dedication. During the January 22nd council meeting, the matter of the library rededication was discussed. The resolution was tabled until April 9th council meeting. As chair, I've decided in lieu of appointing a committee to place this item as a discussion item on the March 12th agenda. By placing this item on the agenda for discussion prior to the April 9th resolution, it will allow council members as well as the public to hear the discussion or provided input. This will also allow the process to be more transparent. Again, a discussion item regarding the library funding rededication will be placed on the March 12th council meeting agenda. No vote will be taken during this discussion. All are invited to attend and tune in. Any council announcements? Councilman Boudreaux.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I have a few tonight. The first, I would like to start off with LUS Director, Mr. Jeff Stewart. Many of y'all may have heard that there was a spill at our North Water plant that directly affected Districts 3 and 4. I would simply like to give the public and this council an update and just make them aware that there are still some constituents calls coming in, that if you could distribute a phone number and again contact if anyone has any problem at all, what should they do? But if you could tell us what exactly happened.
Okay, Jeff Stewart, Interim Director of Utilities. Of course, y'all are aware, Sunday, February 3rd, we had a lime spill at the North Water Plant. North Water Plant is located at North Buchanan and Mudd. Prior to Sunday's event, we used hydrated lime in our water process. Hydrated lime was transferred from a large storage tank to a specific tank that's used by some of the treatment units within the facility. On Sunday, we initiated a process that's done daily to inject the hydrogen lime into our water process. There was a cap that was not sealed properly within the piping of that tank. And upon activation, we released lime into the property. If you can imagine dropping flour on a floor or a counter, a bulk of the material hits the ground or the floor, and you have a cloud of dust that comes up from it. That's what happened here. A bulk of the material remained on the roof of the North Water Plant, and the cloud rose up, and the wind carried it into the neighborhood adjacent. After that was identified, after we found out it was happening, the local and state officials were called into the area. After assessing the area, determining that the material itself, lime, was not hazardous, a plan was developed to properly clean the area. In order to limit the public's contact with the lime that was on the ground and on the streets and the sidewalks, and to efficiently and effectively dispose of the lime substance, we asked residents nearby, we mapped out a little area for evacuation. It was not mandatory because the substance itself was not hazardous. It was not a mandatory evacuation. But if they chose not to evacuate, we were asked that there be a shelter in place. Shelter in place was there to limit and eliminate really foot traffic and vehicle traffic, because we were going to roadblock a certain section of the streets. For those who chose to evacuate, we made accommodations at a local hotel and made arrangements if they did not have their own transportation to get them to the hotel. Ended up accommodating them for 2 nights, Sunday night and Monday night, because we knew it would take some time for the cleanup. So on to Monday morning. So that process, I probably didn't account for the last resident until about 11:30 p.m. Monday morning, 7 a.m., reconvened at the water plant site, developed a plan, and began cleaning. And what that was, neutralizing the lime. Lime has a higher pH than a base 7 or base 6 or 7. But anyway, neutralized it, washed it, and then vacuumed it. The big concern wasn't necessarily harm to individuals. It was having the lime enter the storm drain, because it does have a higher pH. And so throughout the process, we had air monitors, and we tested the water that was being used to wash the lime, and captured the water itself, and we hauled it off site. Around 4 o'clock, we were able to lift the evacuation notice, allow residents to move back into their homes, and remove the roadblocks. At that point, normal activity can resume, day-to-day activities, whatever was occurring prior to the Sunday spill. There was no public harm that we could see from everything that was going on, and so we allowed the residents to move back. Like I said, we had the 2 nights in the hotel arrangements already, so we allowed those residents to stay the night if they didn't have the time or accommodations to get back. Once the residents returned home, we recommend that they change their HVAC filters, wash the clothing that they may have on that day, and also if they have any dust remaining on vehicles, houses, or in the yard or whatever, spray it off with a water hose. That's the most effective way to rid themselves of the lime dust. So I've gotten a lot of questions on what's the hydrated lime used for in our water process. It's one of several chemicals that we use, but we use this specific chemical to soften water. If hard water, if it reaches a certain, there's a lot of chemistry involved, but it reaches a certain hardness, it does not mix with soap. It's hard to wash clothes. You can't bathe. It's really a tough mix. We soften the water to make it useful and practical. Too soft of a water, it feels oily. It's almost like you can't wash the soap off your skin. The lime itself can be purchased at any home improvement store or any garden center in 30, 50-pound bags, bulk. It's the same stuff. And so it's more of an irritant than a hazardous material. So depending on one's tolerance to the dust itself, that's really what the effects can be: eye irritation, skin irritation, and some other. But it's a commonly used material for gardening, farming, and some other things. I've even heard people bathe their dogs in it. But that's really what the chemical is used for. For our purposes, it's to soften the water to an acceptable level. And so that's it. As of 4 o'clock yesterday evening, it was kind of an all clear for the evacuation. Roadblocks were lifted. I want to make note of all the agencies that were involved. Starting with the local agencies, the local Lafayette Police, Lafayette Fire, Hazmat, the state police, the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality, all part of the process. We had our staff and, of course, our environmental contractors. Once the plan was developed Sunday afternoon and evening, it went really well. I thought the coordination was excellent between all the parties. And, I do believe the evacuation roadblock helped us quickly dispose of the product because we had large fire trucks and vacuum trucks in the middle of the street for a majority of the day, and that just helped us move along. The public was also very accommodating. I mean, I can only imagine getting a knock on your door Sunday evening saying, we have an evacuation in order, pack up some stuff for a couple of nights and come with us. We also had a lot of help from Parks and Rec. We opened the Domain Center that night. I made a phone call, and 15 minutes later it was open, for us to have like a staging area outside of the roadblock zone. And of course, everybody within LCG, finance, and others, big help for us because there was a lot of coordination to make hotel accommodations, food, and that type of thing. We had to get pretty quickly, but all in all, it was a pretty long couple of days, a lot of hard work, but at the end of Monday, we had completed most of the job. Our next focus is going to be what happened. How did this cap fail? What happened in that process? And so that's our next steps. Figure out where the incident really happened, because it's too late once you hit the buttons to activate the lime injection. It's too late to kind of stop it because the cap came off. So we're going to begin our review of that incident itself and figure out where the problems are. But that's a summary as much as I know and can provide today, and I'll be happy to ask or answer any questions you may have.
Just simply one, if anyone have any questions, concerns, or need action or what to do next, what is the one clearinghouse number for them to call so they won't have to go all over this government, all over the city? What is the one number they could call to get direction?
I would say call my office number. My direct line is 291-5838, and it's usually answered all hours of the work day. We have coverage on it. And I would say if anybody has any lingering questions, and from there I'll be able to direct exactly where to go, whether it's to customer service or wherever, even risk management or something like that here. So I would say 291-5838, and from there we'll be able to manage and direct any residents who have questions.
Right. Well, thank you for that, Jeff. I could tell you, I did hear rave reviews. I did hear one concern expressed, but overwhelmingly, the accommodations, the response, everything was handled really well. So thank you for you and everybody who you named for being so considerate and sensitive to our community when they're going through such a thing. So that's all I have as it relates onto this. Thank you for that report.
I agree, and I'll kind of jump on that if you don't mind. Every decision we made Sunday and Monday and even throughout today and in the future, it's going to be with those residents in mind. That was our first concern, making sure that they were taken care of, and then we would go through the cleanup process. But those residents that was the focus of a majority of Sunday, and then we ended up taking action into Monday. But I thank you for that, and I'll certainly express it to all the staff who were there.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Boudreaux, Mr. Lewis has a question.
Jeff, Councilman Lewis has a question on this particular matter.
Yes, sorry.
Okay, Jeff, no problem. I appreciate everything that the way it was handled, but my concern would be, I heard at the beginning of your statement, you're saying that it wasn't mandatory.
Correct.
And it wasn't mandatory, and you also say it wasn't harmful to the residents at all.
It was non-hazardous.
Hazardous, okay, it
Right,
was
but
not.
it's an irritant.
Yeah, but then from my reading through all of this here, I think I read something about some people was transferred to the hospital.
Yeah, the last, I was with the fire department late yesterday, and I got word of a dozen or so people who had gone to seek medical treatment. I wasn't involved in that part of it. That's more of an emergency response, but I do know that some people were treated medically, yes.
So I understand. So my question would be that if it's not mandatory and perhaps that maybe wouldn't be harmful or anything like that, what considered mandatory for evacuation when it's around the residents like that?
For mandatory evacuation,
Yes.
it would probably be for a hazardous material. That's just my observation of going through this event and learning a whole lot. I would think it's more for hazardous material as defined by the MSDS, or if the state police hazmat or local hazmat determines it to be a hazardous material, that would be the evacuation protocol.
Okay, well, that was basically my question. I just want to make sure that in the future, when they have something, a spill or whatever, toxic, what have you, I just want to make sure that residents are protected as much as to their ability. Because when you hear something is not mandatory, mean that it's not harmful. It's nothing to really worry about or be concerned about. And I just want to make sure that, Mr. Chief Benoit, you might want to weigh in on this.
We have a lot of systems in place, a lot of protocol in place. The public is aware of it. We do these press conferences when we have an issue, because sometimes you have a train derailment. And depending on what's going on, we'll tell you either shelter in place, or if we have to evacuate, then we make that decision at that time. Some people, out of caution, they want to self-evacuate, or they want to respond or go to a hospital because they think they're feeling something, and we say it's okay if that's what you want to do. But we make sure that they understand, we know what's going on, we know what the chemical is, we know how it reacts, and if we're asking you to just stay where you are, then we know that it's not going to harm you from where you are. But there was some calls with people thinking that they had some issues, which we saw was outside of the hot zone, and we knew that the chemical didn't go into that particular area. But out of abundance of caution, we sent our guys over there to test their homes inside and out, and told them that we didn't see anything there. You're not in the hot zone, you're not contaminated, but if you feel that you don't feel right, still go to the hospital and check yourself out. And so that's pretty much the protocol that we use on every incident, whether it's a large incident or a small incident.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the protocol is done correctly and proper in the future, if there was something like that happen again. Okay, thanks again, I appreciate it.
Boudreaux, you still have the floor.
Okay, thank you. The next, I would like to bring up Jackie Lyle, and anyone that you have with us. Mr. Chairman and members, there's something coming to the Lafayette community in the upcoming week. They'll be utilizing the Hyman Performing Arts Center. It's an internationally renowned dance company, AOC World Tour, and there's a lot of opportunities for children in this particular performance, as well as some adults, but there's some children activities. So what I would like for Jackie to do, or the representative of, is please just identify what dates these events will be taking place and where they will take place, please.
Certainly. ALE 2 will be conducting a master class February 11th at 4 o'clock at McLaurin Hall on the UL campus. It's for intermediate and advanced dancers, but anyone, including all of you, can come to watch and learn. At 6 p.m. at Immaculate Heart of Mary Gym, the corner of Surrey and 12th Street, there will be a free lecture demonstration. Anyone can come and find out more about how dancers train, what their career path is like, how they got to where they were, and see some of their movement and participate in some of the activity. Then on Tuesday, there's a daytime performance for students in junior high and high school at the Hyman Center. We have students coming from several parishes, some traveling as far as 40 miles to be able to attend, because there is not local access to these types of events for students. At 12:45, ALE's rehearsal director, Fana Fraser, will talk to UL students and others interested in dance about how you prepare for auditions. Again, this is free. At 4 o'clock, for the first time, we're doing something in Youngsville at the Youngsville Sports Complex, master class, again for intermediate and advanced dancers, because it's in another part of town. The access is better. And then finally, on Wednesday night at 7:30 at the Hyman Center, we will have the public performance. Those tickets start at $10, and all of the free activities and the ability to offer tickets for $10 is because of the generosity of corporations and individuals. And we also want to thank LUS Fiber for their in-kind support. With me is Grace Hamilton and Tina Shelvin, who you all both know. Grace, a leader in dance, and Tina, the queen of Macomb. And Our partnership list is very long, and it would be impossible to have brought everybody in, but it's the most exciting collaboration that I've experienced in my 30 years doing this in Lafayette. I hope that all of you will come. I have cards and invitations for each of you, and if I can be of any service with this project, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. You could give those cards to the clerk and she'll make sure we get them all. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In my last presentation today, if Teresa Elberson, if you could come forward, please, with the library to provide us with an update on the drag queen story time events, please.
Hang on one second, let me get your mic hot. Can you please identify yourself
Yes.
for the record?
Teresa Elberson, Library Director. The event that you're referring to was held by a Lafayette-based organization. They reserved a public meeting room for the event at the South Regional Library, and they were approved to use the room after agreeing to our guidelines. The library was not involved with this event, nor did the library promote, sponsor, or coordinate any part of that program. We did not attend the program, so I really don't have any details to give you. Since it wasn't our program again, I have no details such as attendance to give to you. I did read in the news that the organizers considered it a success, but
Yeah, I was mainly concerned about the library's input. I know this was an issue for many in our community, in particular 50 pastors signed a document out of concern for certain things. So I'm not really concerned about how many people attended. I know there was no arrest and no problems at the event, but I wanted to know the library's position basically.
right, they
on
just
it.
held it at that library, the South Regional Library, as just a regular public, they reserved a room.
Right. So, and it wasn't sponsored by LCG, the library, or any
No,
of the
sir.
concerns that was brought forward previously? Okay.
Right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
had a
you.
question? Okay, I think that are all my announcements for tonight.
Sure.
I don't know, let me double check. Check one? Yeah, I think that's it for now until we get into the agenda. Thank you so much.
Sounds great. Ms. Abear, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. I only have one announcement. I wanted to invite the public to a town hall that I'm going to be having partnered with LUS and LUS Fiber. It will be Wednesday, February 20th from 5:30 to 7:30 at the South Regional Library. It's going to be just kind of a open house, come when you can from 5:30 to 7:30 to learn more about the services of LUS, water, sewer, utility, as well as LUS Fiber. So feel free to come by, again, Wednesday, February 20th, from 5:30 to 7:30 at the South Regional Library. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Cook, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. On that same note, I just wanted to publicly thank LUS for the fiber meeting, for the LUS utility meeting, town hall meeting we had last week. They did a wonderful job. Jeff Stewart had a team of 18 or so people from LUS that came out and were ready to answer any question that was presented to them, and I just wanted to publicly thank them. I had thanked them at the earlier meeting, but there was no one here, so I thought I would give them another shout out. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll now move to the Executive Mayor President's Report. Mr. Robideau.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just real quickly, offering up some information from Jeff. Thank you for the update. And Kenneth, on your question about who to call, I appreciate that Jeff gave his direct line, but it's also an opportunity for me to remind everybody that we do have 311 in place now. It's far from perfect, but it's certainly working. And so if for some reason you just cannot remember an LCG number and who to call, start with 311, and they will work towards getting you in touch with whoever it is that you need to get in touch with. So right now, we're limited to the phone. We're having a lot of meetings to turn that into a digital 311 where you'll be able to access it in a number of different ways. But as it relates to the spill over the weekend, if someone does have questions and they just can't remember the LUS number, then just remember 311, and those operators will be able to patch them through and get them to whoever it is that they need to talk to. With that, I'll turn it over to Laurie Toops to talk to you about the budget versus actual, and then after that, we'll bring up Mark Dubrock to give us an update on the drainage initiative. Laurie?
This is the monthly budget to actual for all major funds that we're required to give you, and we're required to document that in our minutes. That's it, every month.
While Mr. Dubrock's coming up, Councilman Lewis has a question for you. Mr. Robideau?
Mhm.
Well, hang on, give me a second. Nope.
Okay, Mr. Robideau, concerning that 311,
Mhm.
it's not necessarily just for the spills, for other,
Oh, yeah,
like
no, any
potholes.
information that
Yeah.
you want regarding LCG and everything but non-emergency. Obviously, emergency, we want you to call 911, but if you need to contact the police, the council, the mayor's office, Public Works, LUS, whichever one of the departments, and you just don't have the time or ability to look it up from wherever you are, just know that you can dial 311 and you'll get an operator that will then be able to get you through to the folks that you need to talk to.
So you're saying, so if a constituency,
It's
a
absolutely, yeah.
pothole or something like lights out, they can dial 311?
Any of those things, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Information we're trying to get it at the constituents' fingertips, that if they call 311, and like I said, we're trying to roll out a digital 311. And we're working diligently to get that, but I think ultimately that's what the constituency is looking for. So,
Okay,
yeah,
thanks.
yeah, it's for anybody. Mark?
All right, good evening. It's nice to be here on a positive note to report good, fun things.
If y'all don't mind identifying yourselves.
I
for the
will.
record.
I'm Mark Dubrock, Director of Public Works. I have Fred Tronhall, who is our project manager for the Drainage Initiative, and Jessica Carney, who is our city engineer for planning and development. That's not right, but design and development. I did want to say that I neglected to thank these two individuals at our last update back in November. This project would not have happened without the efforts of these two individuals. There's a lot of people behind the scenes working on different aspects of the project, but these two spearheaded it, and I'm grateful for their work on this project and their positive attitude and willingness to jump in with both feet. They've prepared the slides tonight, and so we'll proceed with that. We did structure this to sort of follow along with the way we presented it last time, as well as the initial presentation. So this is the drainage map of what we maintain in Lafayette Parish, or are responsible for. This is 900 miles of channel, more or less, but this is the big map. So if you go to the next slide, one of the aspects of the drainage initiative, which in addition to the coulee cleaning aspect of it, is we also had the roadside ditch maintenance. This is being done, it was planned and is being done strictly by in-house forces by our operations department. We initially identified 370 miles of roadside ditch that needed to be worked on. To date, in-house has done 52% of that work. We're proud of that effort. Taking some of the coulee work out of their day-to-day operation made it more doable for them to address this need, and they've done a good job and continue to do so. And I'll take this opportunity to say that we've recently, I think this week, posted on the website the the weekly operation schedule for the in-house crews. And so anybody in the public or in the government can look online and see where the crews are working. We hope to eventually, in the near future, have a map online where you can see the dots on the map where they're located. So that's something in the works. I don't have a schedule for that occurrence, but we're working on that. So the next channel were the results of the initial analysis that we did back in February. We identified 77 channels in the program, about 100 miles of coulees, and it's $45 million total. Of course, we had three groups of those channels, Group A, Group B, Group C. Identified Group A as the primary focus. It's roughly $9.5 million, which is what we expected to have available the first year, and that's where we've actively pursued. the work. The lines in red are projects that are actually completed. These are projects that were on the initial list. The purple are projects that are actively in construction, and then the green are ones that are not completed. They're typically either in the bid process or in the design phase. So here's the breakdown between the three groups. We have Group A, we have 27 channels, 42 miles of work, and that is our focus. 11 of those projects are completed, 6 are under construction, 5 are bidding this month. We have a package due the 7th, and Fred, what's the other?
21st.
The 21st. So we'll be receiving bids on 2 packages. And then we still have 5 that are in the planning design phase that we expect to bid before July and get those underway. So we will have theoretically all of Group A under construction or completed by July. The ones that we're bidding right now, the 5 that are in the bidding and the 6 under construction, will be completed before the summer. Group B is the next group. We have actively started the process of design on half of those projects. So we've taken 11 of the 24 and are proceeding with the surveys and wetland determinations. We actually did one because it was bundled with another project that we had already planned, and so that one was taken care of. It was a clearing, just snagging the debris out of that channel, but it was one that was on the list, and it was completed. And we have 2 of similar nature that's going to be in the package bidding. I think that's the 21st package, the 7th.
Yeah,
So we'll get those this week.
Thursday.
And then in Group C, we also had one that was a snagging project, and that one was completed in the first batch. So this is a snapshot from the dashboard. We have 27 projects listed, the Group A channels, and we're saying right now that 100% are on or below budget and 100% are on schedule. We may reevaluate 2 of them that could be considered a little bit behind schedule, but we will still be under construction with those 2. So I don't want to misrepresent that. These are the completed channels that we've completed. You can see the last 2, one's in B and one's in C, but we've completed 13 channels, 22.8 miles, which is a nice chunk of channel. And then the 6 that are under construction right now are 6.5 miles of channel, and those are actively underway. If you catch them on the right day, you can see them at work if you drive out there. And then the next one are the ones that are being bid this month, 7 channels there, almost 19 miles. And going to the next one, this would be the current status, I guess, of the program. We have roadside ditches cleaning, 180 of 370 miles identified. We value that work at $2.5 million, but it's in kind, so we don't have a true separation. I can't tell you what the exact cost of that is. It's built into the operations of the operations department. The channel maintenance, that's completed. We've done the 22.85. It's 13 channels, approximately $1.5 million spent to date. Fred measures it as 1,000 truckloads of silt and 500 plus truckloads of vegetative material. So it's a substantial amount of material being removed from these channels, which is what we basically promised the public, that we would try to take care of the neglected maintenance of the past and clear out some of these channels. In progress, we now have 14 channels, $5.5 million, and we project that by the fall we will have completed 48.32 and have, I don't remember the number, Fred, of what will be in construction theoretically. We'll be up to 66 miles.
There'll be, yeah,
It'll be total, so that would
48 out of the 77.
be 18 more miles. So that's sort of it in a nutshell. I think we provided you with some extra information for your review at your leisure. Certainly, if there's ever any questions about it, give me a call, give Fred a call. Jessica's got enough on her plate, so Fred or I'll handle it. But
Okay, I have some council members, Councilman Boudreaux.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, right quick, I just want to let the council members know that they each have a copy of the presentation, and I could forward an electronic copy, and as well staff a load up to the website, a copy of the presentation.
Thank you.
Mark, could you bring us up to date? We have had extensive conversation, the mayor president, yourself. when we initially deployed this process, there was two channels that inadvertently was left out of the original inspection, and that was Cooley Bend and Webb Cooley. Of course, Cooley Bend is a very large coulee that goes from almost the St. Martin line all the way into the Carencro area. And of course, Webb Cooley services the Derby Heights area, where I often try to remind people that's the last place water was left in Lafayette Parish, considering the floods. Since that time, they have in fact been inspected because we felt the need to do so. And if you could, just for the record, especially with the report that you've given here today, I think you had indicated that it fell into the bottom half of Group B, if that's correct. Is what you provided us today inclusive of that, or is this report minus that?
That would be less those two projects. We have sort of taken a firm point at this time that our focus is on what we identified in the original program, and we said that we would do those projects. The ones that have come to us, and there's been those two, and I think one other one that has requested rating, and so we've done that. Webb rated as a 21, which puts it in the bottom half of Group B, or would put it in that ranking. And then Cooley Bend was rated as a 19, which put it at the very bottom of Group B. The problem with those two...
Let me go from a professional question to a political question now. Mr. Mayor, I can't accept this. Based on what we talked about, I don't know why they were left out. That wasn't our fault. It was good that we caught it. I cannot imagine that something that would jump Group C. We already, if you look at Group B, we have 1 complete, 2 in bidding, and 11 in design. That brings us to 14. So the bottom half of Group B, we in it. I would ask that you assist me. We got to get them injected, and whether they're mine or anybody else up here. But I cannot imagine, because they were left out, whether it was by someone's fault or accidentally, but the fact that we identified it, they're supposed to be in place, and we're not going to put them. I don't think that's right. I mean, I want to stop right there and talk about it. But to think that we're going to say we're focusing on what we initially identified, well, I was intentionally left out. The project was left out. Okay? Now, I'm willing to say it was unintentional, but to come now and say that we're not going to look at it, although we now see where it rates, that goes away from the whole objective, I think, for us not to be parochial, for us not to make this political for us. So I'm in the mix now, but now that I rate, I can't get in? I don't know.
Well,
no, we got to look at that differently.
I'll interject some technical information. Is that we do have a capital improvements project underway right now on Webb. It's serving, it's not Webb Cooley itself, but it's going to serve that area and provide relief to Webb Cooley. The primary problem with Webb Cooley is that it's a backwater condition of water backing up in the river. It's not the drainage capacity per se of the stream itself, and so clearing it's not going to serve any purpose at this time in the regards of why we experience flooding in that area. The problem is much bigger and greater in scope than clearing and snagging it, and so that's why at this point we did not put it into the project as such. Cooley Bend is also a capital improvements project that we are in design phase to address the lower half of it, or pardon the dimension, it may not be half, but significant portion of the project is underway. The upstream areas, we would look at that separately and see if there was anything to be gained by that. The intent would be that the downstream improvements, the original first phase of it, would solve a lot of the problems.
Mr. Dubrock, I totally respect what you're saying, but snagging and dragging was not the only components. You mentioned the capital program. I brought before this council, that was one of my concerns. I brought our capital program of projects that was already funded and would receive funding. I brought the Acadiana Planning Commission program and things that they were funded. And I brought some funding that was coming from other municipalities, laterals that was going into other municipalities that we're working on. And we stuck to the plan of we're going to move. The only thing we were rating the need. That's what I left here with. We were rating the needs. the need may be different, but the impact on these communities is about getting water out, eliminating the drainage. Some of these things, erosion, things have fallen in. I asked this to be rated because I was concerned. When we spoke, when you were on the private side, you said, "Ooh, I'm familiar with Cooley Bend. That would be one. I used to have that on the private side." That raised my alarm. I said, "Well, wait a minute." And it was forgotten. Mistake. We got a rating. But why? I don't understand why we can't inject it into the place where it goes. And when we get to it, we're in the bottom half of B now, as far as starting.
No,
One
top
complete,
half.
2 bidding, 11 under design.
Yeah.
So
the
that's
top
14.
half. Yeah.
Well, that's 24.
Yeah.
So 24 from 14 puts me in the bottom half. We are active. If we take that, we have 10 that nothing has happened on,
Right.
but 14 something. When I'm looking at it as something happening, whether as you identified, one is completed, whether they're going out to bid, or if we're designing something. So we're in the bottom half. As far as something happened, the initiation, we're in the bottom half of nothing ends without starting it. So I don't care if it's at design or bid, we in the mix. But to say that we're going to go through A, B, and C before we come back to something that would fit in B, I can't roll with that. I'm sorry.
To Mr. Boudreaux's question, Mark, the 21 rating that one of those two projects had, are there projects with lower ratings that we are currently working on? I mean, I'm trying to get more specific than just bottom half and top half. Is there ratings of 20 and 19 that are in the bid or the design process?
The C that we cited as being done, that was in another group of
Yeah, I'm not
projects.
gonna count that one.
That would be the only one.
I'm talking about out of the ones that Ken is bringing up that are part of B, that are either under design or about to bid, or any of those rated below where these other projects are rated? And if so, then we do need to revisit that. If there's some 19s and 20s that have.
Fred, the question would be, were the ones that we're pursuing in design right now in
Yeah,
wetlands, were that's the
I can
top?
verify it, but I do not believe, I believe both Webb Cooley and Cooley Bend ranked lower. The other issue that we have to look at is that we have about 2 million left of the 9.5 million, and then we got 2.3, I believe. So those 14 channels take up that amount of money. Cooley Bend and Webb Cooley, to really affect some change, is very, very expensive. So even if we promoted those above the other ones, then we would have less, a considerable amount less projects we can do also.
I guess the point is that we need to see where they're rated, because the rating contemplated whether it was a $50,000 job or a $500,000 or a $2 million job. So I think that was part of the weighting of
It was
within
part
the
of the rating, but it didn't, we rated not giving any credence to how much money we had at the time. We just said, if it rates at 20, it doesn't matter if it costs $10 million and we only have 2, it still rates at 20. So we had to parse those also.
We need to see, if you don't mind, Fred, if you could forward to Kenneth and I, and the whole council for that matter, I want to re-see the list with the ratings for those 2 plus the one other project, the 2 that Kenneth mentioned, and I think there was one other that we went back and said, yeah, we need to rate that one, so we can see that rating list. Because I want to be very clear, the intent was always to be non-parochial. And if those are rated and they fall, below where the other ratings were, then so be it. But if they're rated and there's other projects that have a lower rating, that just because they were on the original list, we're hitting it, then I'm on Kenneth's side saying, okay, we need to have a conversation about that.
I want to get you on my side the whole way, Mr. Mayor. And this is the thing, and if this is the concern, gentlemen, I don't want to hold up a $100,000 project that you have 154 when I need 2 million. That's not what I'm asking for. But if I'm not in the mix, remember, there's talk about moving money around this parish. You see, the game changes if the people of Lafayette Parish chooses to rededicate money. We're no longer dealing with the original 9 million than the 2 million. Keep in mind that through some other initiatives, there's going to be reoccurring funds. In addition to that, the money that has already been allocated in CID for instance, the Cooley Bend project, okay, how does that apply to where does that get us as it relates to design? So all I'm saying is that, but if I don't get on this B list, and I'm just set aside, yeah, you got a good number, but we're not going to put you in because you wasn't in the original, that means opportunities can be missed as money get reallocated from other millages or whatever, as money get moved around, as lights go out, as just anything. So my main, look, I try to be as reasonable as possible. I'm not going to hold up progress for the rest of the parish.
No, and I understand, I appreciate
That's not
that.
what I want.
understand
I'm not
exactly.
asking to hold up money in that capacity. But if I'm not on the list, we don't get looked at.
Yeah.
But now we're saying we're fall. Nothing should happen in C before me now, as far as I'm concerned. But on this B list, I don't want number 23 to be held up if I'm 20, for instance, if we got $10,000 sitting around to do a little fix.
Yep,
That's not what I'm
understand.
asking for. But when you look at, because we've worked very hard to get a lot of money in Cooley Bend, we know because it's a concrete lining that is needed there. There's been a lot of money put into it, because when I got here, the project wasn't even identified. I'm about to leave and the project hadn't been started, but we got a lot of money, okay? If we start moving money yet again, and there's some money floating around on other capital projects that we're going to be talking about soon that may be allocated to that rather than to what somebody else want to use it for. But back to yours, where we agree 100% to not be parochial.
Right.
The list was the list, the rating was the rating. It wasn't no council member say do this, do that. It wasn't no mayor president say do this. Rate them and put them where they go. All I'm asking is to get for once, look, I'm taking my place. Okay?
For once.
I'm going to
I
take
think
my
you've done
place
it more
this
than
time.
once, but thank you.
This time.
Yep.
But I want to be put in place.
So Fred, if you could
I
get
will.
us that updated rating list, so I can look at it again and make sure that I'm understanding it, and then Mr. Boudreaux and I will get with you, Mark, and we'll move forward.
I would certainly appreciate, we could do that and fall where we rightfully go, and then we could move forward. And then we have some creating funding things that's going to take place. We may have a project before we know it. We really could. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you very much, Mr. Dubac, and thank y'all for your efforts.
That's all I see. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll now move to the portion of resolutions. Cindy, please read the resolution.
A resolution of the Lafayette City Parish Council declaring the suspension of residential garbage and recycling service on the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday for those areas under the jurisdiction of Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government.
Need a motion in a second? Motion by Councilman Castillo, second by Councilman Boudreaux. Councilman Boudreaux, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Actually, there was a request for the resolution to be read in its entirety, please.
Be it resolved by the Lafayette City Parish Council that whereas Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government, LCG, provides residential garbage and recycling collection services to the residents of the City of Lafayette and the unincorporated area of the Parish of Lafayette. And whereas, in accordance with the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government Code of Ordinances, participation in the Contracted Waste Collection Program is a mandatory requirement for residents under LCG jurisdiction where applicable. And whereas, the federally recognized Martin Luther King Jr. MLK holiday is also recognized and observed as a holiday by LCG employees and officials, many of whom utilize the holiday as a day of service and celebration in honor of the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And whereas, to the greatest extent possible, the opportunity to participate in service and celebratory activities associated with the MLK holiday throughout Lafayette should be encouraged and shared with all citizens. especially those responsible for the collection of residential garbage and recyclables, the very industry that Dr. King fought advocating for during the Memphis, Tennessee sanitation strike in 1968 near the time of his death. And whereas, in light of these observations, the Lafayette City Parish Council deems it appropriate to articulate its desire and intent to adjust the residential garbage and recycling service schedule during the week of the MLK holiday in order to accommodate the suspension of these services on Monday, and encourages surrounding municipalities in Lafayette Parish and waste collection vendors that provide service to commercial customers to enact similar declarations. Now, therefore, be it further resolved by the Lafayette City Parish Council that Section 1, all the aforedescribed whereas clauses are adopted as part of this resolution. Section 2, the Lafayette City Parish Council declares a suspension of residential garbage and recycling service on the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday for those areas under the jurisdiction of Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government, effective with its 2020 MLK holiday observation.
Mr. Boudreaux, you still have the floor.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, members, Mr. Mayor President, members of our great community, it gives me great honor to bring forward this resolution for consideration. As many of you all know, Dr. King's death occurred on April the 4th, 1968. He was shot at 6:01 p.m. and pronounced dead later at the hospital at 7:05 p.m. That shooting took place at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. He was specifically in Memphis at that time for the second time. Ironically, he was specifically in Memphis in support of striking African-American city sanitation workers. This day, I want to indicate, is recognized by LCG as an official federal holiday. Here in Lafayette, we are proud to still host one of the greatest and most educational and informative programs in the country, right here in Lafayette, after we have just celebrated our 34th year over at the Martin Luther King Center, one of our public facilities. So we're approaching an anniversary year of 35 years. I felt that, and many others felt that it was very appropriate in order to do so, to bring this forward. And in doing so, we discovered a couple of other things. Before I announce those, I want to just make sure that you are aware of the fact that this resolution is only representative of the jurisdiction of Lafayette Consolidated Government. And the reason is because in the residential service at that, the service to our business community will not be included on this, although the resolution asks that they consider it, simply because they could use providers other than those we are under contract with. Also, this would take place almost a year to today. As we know, the Martin Luther King holiday has passed, so this will not go into effect until 2020. The picture you see there is an opportunity with the National League of Cities that I was at conference in Memphis, and the two individuals to the far right and the far left are actually living members of the group of sanitation workers that Dr. King went and advocated for. So I've actually had the opportunity to meet some of those workers live and in person and have conversations with them and share with me what impact Dr. King's visit had there in the speech that he gave the night before. The gentleman to my immediate left, Dr. Cowles, is actually the gentleman who draped the sheet over Dr. King after he was shot up on that balcony. And he shares that story in public meetings and with different groups, and it is unbelievable as he described the gunshot and the rifle sound at that time. So I wanted to just share that with you. I want to also assure you that I have discussed this matter with Republic, our service provider, and they are in total support of this. They actually do this same thing in other communities. It does not impact their service area at all. And I want to thank our Chief Administrative Officer. Just this afternoon, Lo Duyon reached out to me. He did some investigation into our contract and discovered that our contract as it is today actually gives this government the authority to suspend other dates of service. That's in there already, and like him, to me, it was like, we don't know why this hasn't been done. I could tell you, I've thought about it for a number of years, and it was something that we feel we needed to do. So this resolution will obviously speak to the administration to say we would like to see this done. The current contract is on board with this, so there will be no pushback from it. And I would ask that everyone support this resolution and again, show just how progressive Lafayette is in 2019 going into 2020. Those are all the comments that I have at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Terrio.
Thank you, sir. To follow up on what Mr. Boudreaux just said, I also had spoke with the administration and that there were some questions as to was there going to be any additional cost by not picking up on Martin Luther King Day, and as he mentioned, and I think Mr. Duyon confirmed that they will not be. Is that correct? Okay. The second question I have, and I don't have an issue with the resolution, but the question I have is that we have contracts with individuals like Republic who provide a service to us. Mr. Ascott, you might also listen on this too, but any other provider that we provide a service on that particular day, will they also be obliged to not provide service on Martin Luther King Day because we're doing this with Republic Services?
Your mic's hot. Both of y'all mics.
Okay, thank you. My understanding is as it relates to the contract with Republic, and I think it would, the answer to your question is it would become contract specific. Republic clearly states that if it's an LCG recognized holiday, that they will then move the dates one day to accommodate that. So it's not like we're just not gonna, they're not gonna pick up. If you had a Monday pickup and that's today,
Right,
it'll
just
become
move it.
Tuesday, Tuesday will become Wednesday and so forth. That's in that contract, and that's, I think, part of why Kenneth said it's surprising that we hadn't done it before, at least since it's been a recognized holiday. So to answer your question, though, I would say that it's contract specific in what's allowed by the contract or what's not allowed by the contract. As it relates to this one, it is very specifically addressed regarding our holidays and what they're willing to do in relation to those holidays.
Okay, so you guys don't foresee any problems with any other service contracts or anything on that also?
I don't. I would assume that if there's a contract that's out there that wants to address it with us, then you know, they'll raise that question or would have already raised that question about what happens during the holiday period.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Hebert.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth, but
Meatloaf.
in my district, we have a Wednesday and Friday pickup, and so my concern was what happens to my Friday pickups. But for those of you watching from home that maybe have a Friday pickup and are in a bit of a panic, they will be picking it up on Saturday. I asked, what's the chances of, say, Republic just happens to not pick it up on Saturday? Who can they call? They said to call 311 or call Republic directly, and they'll even pick up on a Sunday if needed. So just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that if you're watching from home and have questions. That's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Boudreaux.
Right, so to Mrs. Hebert and to Mr. Terrio, just to clear it up, it's going to be like other holidays as far as this is concerned, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, and those holidays where pickups are suspended the day of. As it relates to other contractors with LCG, this one is kind of special in such that it's a holiday of a situation and of a man who was specifically dealing in that industry. And I thought I was talking to my pastor about it, and, you know, I say, Pastor, you know, with all due respect, we have the birth of Christ, we have the resurrection of Christ, we have what some view as the founding of America, et cetera, those holidays. I say, but how about we have a holiday, a national holiday that is recognized, the local government acknowledges it, and it's specifically related to what the man was doing at the time. So I will tell you that, to be fully transparent, I did not look into and I do not know of any other contractual services that are being offered on that day, other than, you know, maybe lawyers who may be under contract and who actually work on that day, don't close their office, or architect or a developer or someone who may be an engineer who may not close their office and working on something on behalf of LCG that day. I did not consider those, and to be quite frank with you, I would not. It was those who we have this agreement with, and because of the uniqueness of who this is and what it's related to. So just as it relates to other contracting people, I did not look into it, but that was not the interest with the resolution at the time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Lewis.
Thank you. I understand what, I'm trying to have a hard time understanding about the two councilmen over there, because this is the right thing to do. I wish it would have been done earlier, longer, before, because, again, we have been celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King holiday for quite some time. And this year, I realized, before this resolution came about, I realized that the garbage service was not suspended. And then when Mr. Boudreau brought it up, I said, wow, I wish that would have been done many years ago. Because here's a man that was killed for the sanitation workers. Back then when Mr. Boudreau announced the date, it happened. This is something that really happened in life. We remember that. I remember as a kid when that happened. And again, we celebrate all type of holidays, and what happens when we celebrate those holidays, the services are suspended. For Christmas, everything is backed up. For Thanksgiving, for other holidays, it's backed up. For someone that lost their life, I think the service should be suspended. And I will support this resolution 100%, and I also ask our fellow council members to support it as well. And again, I applaud Mr. Boudreau for bringing it up. And again, I wish it would have been brought up many, many years ago. That's something that should have been brought up, and now it's being brought up now. I wish it would have, again, I'll say it for the third time, I wish it would have been brought up before. Thank you, Mr. Boudreau, I appreciate it.
Thank you for Councilman Lewis. Seeing no other council discussion, Ms. Williams, any public comments?
Yes, sir. We did have two citizens who signed in who did not wish to speak but supports the resolution. We do have one speaker, Carlos Harvin.
Good evening. My name is Bishop Carlos Harvin. I pastor New Beginnings Christian Church and proud resident of Lafayette, Louisiana. I want to thank Councilmember Kenneth Boudreau for introducing this resolution and just the discussion. Mr. Mayor, it's good to see you. Just on how important this is. I think your timing is perfect because we are beginning the celebration of Black History Month. And Councilmember Lewis, as you indicated, it would have been great if this could have been done much sooner. We are where we are right now, and I think that it is long overdue. Councilmember Boudreau mentioned that Dr. King was in Memphis for that sanitation workers strike to speak on behalf of workers who felt that they were being misused and mistreated by city officials. And prior to his arrival, what really charged this movement were that there were two sanitation workers, Echo Cole and Mr. Robert Walker, who were crushed to death by a malfunctioning truck. And it was their death on the job that galvanized all of these workers at one point, 22,000 students skipped school that day in March to call attention to workers' rights. And I think, even though many of those conditions have improved, to remember those who lost their lives, especially those sanitation workers, and Dr. King, who was there to speak on behalf of citizens that are often overlooked. Without our sanitation workers, our city wouldn't, the quality of life that we have, we would not enjoy that, and that's a tough job. And I think it calls to mind the spirit of why we celebrate the birthday of Martin Luther King Jr., who saw no one as too low on the ladder to speak up on their behalf. Just in closing, Dr. King, in many of his speeches, there's a quote that he stated, and I think it speaks to the heart of why this resolution should pass. And council members, I really urge you to support it, because I think it will send a message throughout our parish and throughout our city about the kind of city we are, the kind of parish we are. Dr. King said, everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Cindy, please call for the vote.
District 1, District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 6,
Yes.
District 7,
Yes.
District 8,
Yes.
District 9.
Yes.
The motion is approved.
We'll now move to ordinances for final adoption. Please read.
Ordinance 3, 2019, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council providing for the abandonment of a portion of the alley in the Art Addition subdivision and 5th Coronet Extension, and the granting of a 10-foot utility servitude located in the 400 block of Curtis Street.
Need a motion and a second? Motion by Ms. Cook, second by Councilman Boudreaux. Seeing no council discussion, Ms. Williams, any blue cards? Public
sir.
comments, I'm sorry.
No, sir.
Please call for the vote.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 6,
Yes.
District 7, District 8, District 9, District 1. The motion is approved. Ordinance 4, 2019, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the fiscal year 1819 operating budget of the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government by increasing revenues in the amount of $134,610 received from Louisiana Highway Safety Commission and appropriating within the Lafayette Police Department.
Motion by Councilman Conk, second by Councilman Terrio. Seeing no council discussion, Ms. Williams, any public comments?
No, sir.
Cindy, please call for the vote.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 6,
Yes.
District 7,
Yes.
District 8, District 9, District 1, District 2. The motion is approved. Ordinance 5, 2019, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the fiscal year 1819 capital budget of the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government by recognizing revenues in the amount of $75,000 received from the Justice Department Equitable Sharing Fund and appropriating within the Lafayette Police Department.
Motion by Councilman Terrio, second by Councilman Lewis. Seeing no council discussion, Ms. Williams, any public comment?
No, sir.
Please call for the vote.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5,
Yes.
District 6,
Yes.
District 7, District 8, District 9, District 1, District 2, District 3. The motion is approved. Ordinance 6, 2019, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the fiscal year 1819 pay plan of the Lafayette Consolidated Government for the Lafayette Police Department.
Motion by Councilman Conk, second by Councilman Lewis. Seeing no council discussion, Ms. Williams, any public comments?
No, sir.
Please call for the vote.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8?
Yes.
District 9? District 1? District 2? District 3? District 4? The motion is approved. Ordinance 7, 2019, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the fiscal year 1819 operating budget of the and adjusting manning tables of the Lafayette Consolidated Government by increasing the use of the city general fund balance by $206,432.39 and appropriating within the promotions costs account of the Lafayette Police Department.
Motion by Councilman Cone. Second by Councilman Cook. Seeing no council discussion. Ms. Williams, any public comment?
No, sir.
Please call for the vote.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8?
Yes.
District 9?
Yes.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4? District 5?
Yes.
The motion is approved. Ordinance 8, 2019, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the fiscal year 1819 capital budget of the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government by transferring $30,000 from signed material to the Espaze Drive Traffic Calming Project within the Public Works Department.
Motion by Councilman Terrio. Second by Councilwoman Cook. Councilman Castillo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had some discussion about this in the last meeting, and the more I thought about it, this 30,000 came from the sign department. Warren, can you come up, if you don't mind? Oh, y'all ganging up on me then. I just asked for Warren, y'all both show up, huh?
Oh, wouldn't throw him out.
Why bring
You
a
asked me,
gunfight?
He runs the buses. I don't want to throw him under one.
Well, he's fixing to lay down on one.
Just today.
Okay, you were taking this out of the sign fund or department?
It's a previous year sign material parish account.
Okay,
Warren, please identify yourself for the record.
Warren Abity, City Parish Transportation Engineer.
Thank you, sir.
the problem I have is we just went over a drainage list, drainage needs for the unincorporated areas of this whole parish, right? Apparently, this 30,000 wasn't needed in the signing department, so that could have been stuck somewhere in our drainage fund to help with some drainage work or some overlay work or something. The parish has very little funding to start off with. So if we have extra money like this in these funds, well, then that should be sent towards an area of the budget that we need the funds, such as drainage and roads. So I'm not going to support this for that reason. And if there's any other departments any other areas within Public Works on the parish side of it that have funds that are available for something like this, I think we need to transfer that into the drainage fund and get busy with our drainage work. Because I really think $30,000 doesn't sound like a whole bunch, but it's going to dig some ditches. Right or wrong?
No, you're correct.
Okay. And I'm not throwing nobody under the bus. I'm just saying it. I don't think we ever had any project like this in the unincorporated areas. I don't think we've ever done one.
It's been very few. This may be the first one. I'm scared to say it's the first one, but it's been very few.
I think it's the first one if we do one. And I don't think this is something that's needed out in the unincorporated areas right now. Inside the city limits where it's heavily congested, I can see having some of this, but not out in the country out there. But that 30,000 would be better spent in our drainage fund than on this traffic calming devices project. That's just my opinion. So council members, I would ask that you defeat this ordinance if you don't mind, and hopefully we can get that money transferred into our drainage fund to do a little more ditch digging, if you don't mind, because since we've never done any of these projects in the unincorporated areas, I don't think we need to start now because there's no need for it. But there is a need for drainage funds wherever we can get it. Thank you, sir.
Seeing no other council discussion, any blue cards or public comment cards or computer cards?
Electronic cards.
Electronic cards, I was going to get it right.
We do, one citizen who did not wish to speak signed in to three citizens who did not wish to speak signed in to support the ordinance. We do have two speakers who signed in, the first of which is Ruth Denias.
Good evening. My name is Ruth Denice,